6 months had passed since the battle. Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of a new warship and looked out at Earth. The planet hung in space like a blue and green jewel. From here it was hard to believe that it had almost been destroyed. The ship he stood on was called the Vanguard. It was twice the size of the Defiant. It had weapons based on captured Valthene technology. Its engines used power from a miniaturized version of the Helix quantum generator. It was the most advanced warship humanity had ever built, and it was just one of 200 new ships in the Earth Defense Fleet. Another 300 were under construction in orbital shipyards around Earth, Mars, and the Moon. Amy Hughes walked up beside him. She wore a commander's uniform now. She had been promoted for her actions during the battle. Everyone who survived that day had received medals and promotions. The memorial ceremony is about to start, she said quietly. Jake nodded. They had built a monument on the Moon. It was a massive wall of polished black stone. 843 names were carved into it. The names of everyone who had died defending Earth. Jake had visited the memorial 3 times already. Each time he read every single name. He owed them that much. Do you think they'll really stay away? Amy asked. She was looking out at the stars. The Valthene, I mean. For a while, Jake said. Admiral Cole says it will take them at least 20 years to rebuild what they lost. Maybe longer, because now they have internal problems. Half their empire is questioning their leadership, but they will come back eventually. Probably, Jake admitted. Empires don't forgive embarrassment. And we embarrassed them badly. They sent almost 10,000 ships and only 17 went home. Amy smiled slightly. Then I guess we'd better be ready when they do. Jake looked at her. She had changed since the battle. They all had. They had seen what war really meant. They had lost friends. They had come within minutes of losing everything, but they had also learned something important. They had learned that humanity could win against impossible odds. We'll be ready, Jake said. We're not the same species they attacked 6 months ago. We're stronger now, smarter, and we're not alone anymore. That was perhaps the biggest change. After the battle, 6 other alien species had contacted Earth. These were smaller civilizations that lived in the same region of space as the Valthene. They had all suffered under Valthene rule at some point. Now they saw Earth as a potential ally, a species that could stand up to the Confederation. Trade agreements had been signed. Technology exchanges had been arranged. Earth was no longer isolated. In the shipyards above Earth, Dr. Lisa Grant was overseeing the construction of new defense platforms. These were based on the Helix technology but smaller and more efficient. Each platform could create singularities without the massive energy requirements of the original device. Greg Palmer was with her, reviewing the construction schedule. We'll have the first 3 platforms operational in 2 months, he reported. Another 12 will be ready within the year. Good, Lisa said. Because I don't trust the Valthene to stay away. They might be rebuilding right now, preparing for another attack. Will these platforms be enough to stop them? Lisa looked at the partially constructed ring of exotic matter in front of her. If they come with 10,000 ships again? Yes, if they come with 100,000. We'll need more time to prepare. On Mars, Admiral Cole was in a meeting with the United Earth Council. The council had expanded since the battle. Now it included representatives from the new allied species. One of them was speaking through a translation device. The alien looked like a tall, thin insect with multiple arms. Its name was difficult for humans to pronounce, so everyone just called it Ambassador Krill. The Valthene High Command is divided, Krill was explaining. Half of them want revenge against Earth. They see your victory as an insult that must be answered. But the other half are more practical. They understand that attacking Earth again would be expensive and might fail. They're focused on maintaining control over their existing territories. So what will they do? Asked Counselor Richard Hayes. He was the same person who had wanted to surrender before the battle. Now he was one of Earth's strongest advocates for military expansion. Unknown, Krill replied. The Valthene political system is complicated. Decisions take time. But I would estimate you have at least 20 Earth years before they can mount another serious attack. Possibly more. Then we need to use those 20 years wisely, Admiral Cole said. We need more ships, more weapons, more alliances. When they come back, we need to be so strong that they think twice about attacking. The council members nodded in agreement. The battle had taught everyone an important lesson. Peace was only possible when you were strong enough to defend yourself. After the meeting, Cole returned to her office. She was tired. The last 6 months had been exhausting. She had overseen the fleet reconstruction, managed diplomatic relations with new alien species, and dealt with 1,000 other problems. But she had also received reports that gave her hope. Earth's population was united in a way it had never been before. Countries that had been rivals for centuries were now working together. Resources were being pooled. Scientists were sharing research freely. The threat of extinction had made humanity stronger. Jake Morrison attended the memorial ceremony on the moon. Thousands of people were there. Family members of the fallen, government officials, military personnel, and ordinary citizens who just wanted to pay their respects. The monument was beautiful in its simplicity. Just a black wall with names carved in alphabetical order. No ranks, no distinctions. Everyone who had died was equal here. Jake found Ben Cooper's name would have been on the wall if things had gone differently. His friend had survived, but it had been close. Jake found the names of people he had known, fellow officers he had trained with, crew members from other ships he had met at conferences. Each name was a person. Each person had a family, a story, a life that had been cut short. Admiral Cole gave a speech. She talked about sacrifice and courage. She talked about how these 1,000 people had saved billions. She promised that their deaths would not be forgotten. When the ceremony ended, people walked up to the wall and touched names. Some left flowers. Others left personal items. Jake just stood and looked at the names for a long time. "They died so we could live," Amy said beside him. "That's what heroes do." "Heroes shouldn't have to die," Jake said quietly. "No," Amy agreed. "But sometimes they do anyway. And when that happens, the best thing we can do is make sure their sacrifice meant something." Jake thought about that. Earth was still free. Humanity was expanding into space faster than ever before. New technologies were being developed. Alliances were being formed. The future looked brighter than it ever had, all because 1,000 people had been willing to stand against impossible odds. "Come on," Amy said. "We have a ship to prepare. The Vanguard's first patrol starts tomorrow." Jake took one last look at the memorial wall. Then he turned and walked away. There would be time for grief later. Right now there was work to do, because the Valthene would come back eventually. And when they did, Earth needed to be ready. Far away in the Valthene capital, the High Command was still debating what to do about Earth. Some wanted immediate revenge. Others counseled patience. The arguments went on with no clear decision being made. But everyone agreed on one thing. The humans were dangerous. They had technology that shouldn't exist. They had destroyed the largest attack fleet in Valthene history. And worst of all, they had inspired other species to resist. 3 more civilizations had rebelled against Valthene rule in the months since the Earth battle. They had been crushed, but it had cost resources. It had shown weakness. The humans had done more than defend themselves. They had changed the balance of power in this region of space, and the Valthene High Command was scared, though none of them would ever admit it. Back on Earth, life continued. Children went to school. People went to work. Cities grew and prospered, but everything was different now. Everyone knew that Earth was not alone in the universe. Everyone knew that there were threats out there among the stars. And everyone knew that humanity had proven it could defend itself. Jake Morrison settled into his captain's chair on the Vanguard. The bridge was twice the size of the Defiance Bridge. The crew was larger, better trained, better equipped. This ship could probably defeat a dozen Valthene warships by itself, and there were 200 more ships just like it. "All systems ready, Captain," Amy Hughes reported from her station, awaiting your orders. Jake looked out at the stars through the main view screen. Somewhere out there the Valthene were watching. Somewhere out there they were planning. But Earth was ready now. Humanity was ready. "Take us out," Jake ordered. "Standard patrol route, and keep all sensors at maximum range. I want to know if anything comes near this system." The Vanguard's engines hummed with power. The ship moved forward smoothly, leaving Earth orbit and heading out into the solar system. Behind them, Earth continued to spin peacefully. 4 billion people living their lives, knowing they were protected, knowing that if danger came again, there were people willing to stand in its way. The Valthene had sent 9,900 warships to conquer Earth. Only 17 had survived to return home. The Valthene fighters came at the Earthships like a swarm of angry insects. There were so many of them that they blocked out the view of space. Each fighter was small, but heavily armed. 3,000 of them could overwhelm even the largest vessel. The Earth Defense Ship Guardian was the first to fall. 20 fighters surrounded it and opened fire from all sides. The ship's shields failed in seconds. The hull was torn apart by concentrated weapons fire. There was a flash of white light, and then the Guardian was gone. Jake Morrison watched it happen on his displays. He felt anger and grief, but there was no time for either emotion right now. The Defiant had its own problems. Dozens of fighters were targeting his ship. Ben, redirect all power to forward shields, Jake ordered. Amy, I need targeting solutions on those fighters. Pick them off one at a time. Amy's fingers flew across her console. Locked on the lead fighter, firing. The Defiant's particle beam lanced out and caught a Valthene fighter. The small craft exploded in a ball of flame, but 3 more immediately took its place. Another kill, Amy reported. But they're closing too fast. We can't stop them all. Jake knew she was right. The Earthships were designed to fight capital ships at long range. They were not meant for this kind of close combat against fast-moving targets. The Vigilant, another Earthship, took a direct hit to its reactor. The explosion was massive. The ship came apart in pieces, scattering debris across 100 kilometers of space. In the Mariana Trench facility, warning lights were flashing red across every control panel. Lisa Grant was covered in sweat despite the cold temperature in the chamber. The Helix device was running far beyond its design limits. Power fluctuations in ring segments 4 through 9, Greg Palmer called out. His voice was strained. The exotic matter is becoming unstable. If we push it any harder, the whole structure could collapse. How much longer can we hold? Lisa asked. Maybe 10 minutes. Maybe less. Lisa, if this thing fails catastrophically, it could cause an explosion that would destroy everything within 200 kilometers. That includes most of the Pacific Ocean floor. Lisa looked at the displays showing the battle above. Earthships were dying, but so were thousands of enemy vessels. Every second the Helix stayed active, more Valthene ships were destroyed. We need those 10 minutes, she said firmly. Compensate for the fluctuations using the gravitational field generators. Route emergency power from the backup reactors if you have to. But keep this thing running. Greg nodded and turned back to his controls. His hands were shaking, but he did his job. Above Earth, Jake Morrison made the hardest decision of his military career. The Defiant was running low on weapons. The hull had been breached in 3 places. Fighters were closing in from every direction. In another minute, maybe 2, his ship would be destroyed. But he could still do one more thing. One final service for Earth. Amy, he said quietly. Designate our current position as a target. She turned to stare at him. Her face went pale. Sir, that would create a singularity right on top of us. We'd be pulled in. I know what it means. Do it. Amy's hands trembled as she entered the coordinates into her console. Coordinates transmitted to the Helix facility. Jake opened a channel to the rest of the Earth fleet. All ships, this is Morrison. We've done our part. Break off from combat and get clear of the engagement zone. That's a direct order. Negative, Defiant, came a voice. It was Captain Laura Kim from the Resolute. We're not abandoning you. You will follow that order, Captain, Jake said firmly. The fleet needs to survive to protect Earth if this plan fails. Get out of here now. He closed the channel before she could argue. Then he looked around at his crew. Every person on the bridge was watching him. Anyone who wants to reach the escape pods has 30 seconds, Jake said. I won't order you to stay. Nobody moved. Ben Cooper actually smiled, though his face was white with fear. Sir, with respect, we all knew what we signed up for when we joined this crew. Amy Hughes nodded in agreement. Let's finish this properly. Jake felt a rush of pride so strong it almost hurt. These were good people, brave people. Earth would survive because of people like them. Then let's make it count, he said. Helm, set a collision course for that command dreadnought. The big one. Full power to engines. The Defiant turned and accelerated straight toward the Infinite Destiny, the largest ship in the Valthene fleet. It was the command vessel, 15 kilometers long, bristling with weapons. Behind the Defiant, space began to ripple as the singularity started to form. War leader Thexan saw the Earthship coming. He understood immediately what they were trying to do. The small vessel was broadcasting coordinates as it charged toward his dreadnought. They were going to create one of those gravity weapons right on top of his ship. "Destroy that vessel!" he screamed. "All batteries, fire everything!" The Infinite Destiny unleashed every weapon it had. Dozens of particle beams converged on the Defiant. The ship's shields collapsed instantly. The hull began to tear apart. Sections of the ship vaporized under the intense heat. On the Defiant's bridge, alarms were screaming. Smoke filled the air. Sparks flew from damaged consoles. Jake felt something hot punch through his left shoulder. He looked down and saw blood, but there was no pain yet. The adrenaline was keeping him going. Through the cracked view screen, he could see the Valthene dreadnought getting closer. It filled his entire field of vision now. "Distance to impact?" he asked. His voice sounded strange in his own ears. 20 seconds, Amy Hughes reported. Blood was running down her face from a cut on her forehead, but her hands were steady on her controls. "The singularity is forming at our position." The Defiant shuddered violently as another hit destroyed the port engine. The ship began to spin, but Jake fought the controls with his one good arm, keeping them on course toward the enemy dreadnought. 10 seconds, Amy counted down. Jake heard Admiral Cole's voice through the static of the damaged communication system. "Commander Morrison, you've done more than anyone could have asked. Earth will remember what you did here." Jake smiled grimly. "Ma'am, with respect, I'm not planning to be remembered just yet." Initiating close-range countermeasures. At point-blank range, with the Infinite Destiny filling the entire view screen, Jake released every remaining missile the Defiant carried. The weapons were not meant to destroy the massive dreadnought. They had a different purpose. Each missile carried a quantum beacon. 43 of them attached themselves to the Valthene command ship's hull. Each beacon screamed a single set of coordinates to the Helix facility far below. "Now!" Jake shouted. The singularity formed, but not behind them where it had started. The Helix device, responding to the new coordinates, shifted the gravity well forward. It materialized directly on top of the Infinite Destiny. War leader Thexan had 1 second to understand what was happening. Then his entire ship was caught in the gravity well. The dreadnought's hull began to compress. Metal that had been forged in the hearts of stars started to crumple like thin foil. Support beams that were thicker than buildings bent and snapped. 3,000 Valthene crew members died before they even knew what was happening. The ship's massive engines exploded. The command center imploded. 15 kilometers of advanced warship was crushed down to the size of a small house, then smaller, then pulled into the singularity and destroyed completely. And the Defiant, caught at the very edge of the event horizon, was pulled backward instead of forward. The massive dreadnought filled the gravity well as it was destroyed, and the resulting gravitational eddy pushed the smaller Earthship away from the center. "We're caught in a gravitational current," Amy Hughes shouted over the alarms. "It's pushing us away from the singularity instead of pulling us in." The Defiant tumbled through space, systems failing, hull breaching in new places, but still intact. Still in one piece. In the Mariana Trench, more alarms screamed. "Cascade failure in ring segments 7 and 8, Greg Palmer shouted. "Lisa, the whole structure is about to come apart." Lisa Grant looked at her displays. The Helix device was destroying itself. They had pushed it too hard for too long. But the Valthene fleet was still out there. Thousands of ships remained, even after all the casualties they had inflicted. She made a decision. Dump all remaining power into one final pulse. Maximum magnitude. Target the exact center of their fleet, then emergency shutdown. That much power could tear the facility apart. Greg protested. "We might not survive." "Do it anyway," Lisa ordered. The Helix device screamed as it channeled more power than it was ever designed to handle. Every backup system was pushed to its limit. The exotic matter ring spun so fast it became invisible. The water around the facility began to boil from the energy radiation. Above Earth, at the exact center of what remained of the Valthene fleet, space tore open one final time. This was not a small tactical singularity. This was massive, a gravity well that pulled in everything within 1,000 kilometers. Valthene warships by the hundreds were dragged toward it. They collided with each other in their panic to escape. Some exploded from the stress on their hulls. Others simply vanished into the gravity well, crushed down to nothing. For 10 seconds, the singularity raged like a hole in the universe. Then, deep under the ocean, the helix device finally failed. The exotic matter ring shattered into pieces. The gravitational fields collapsed. Admiral Patricia Cole stood in Mars Command and stared at the tactical display. She had been in military service for 38 years. She had seen battles, victories, and defeats. But she had never seen anything like what was on her screen right now. Where 9,900 Valthene warships had been just minutes ago, there was now mostly empty space. Scattered debris fields marked where proud warships had died. A few ships were still drifting, powerless and dark, and a handful of vessels were running, their engines burning at maximum as they fled the system. Commander Helen Price was working frantically at her console, trying to count the survivors. Her voice shook when she spoke. "Admiral, I'm reading 17 Valthene ships still operational. They're breaking formation and jumping to faster than light speed. They're running away." The command center erupted in cheers. Officers hugged each other. Some were crying. Some were laughing. The impossible had happened. Earth had won, but Admiral Cole did not celebrate. She pulled up the status board for the Earth Defense Fleet. Her expression did not change, but inside her heart was breaking. "What are our casualties?" she asked quietly. The room fell silent. Everyone stopped celebrating and turned to look at their commander. Helen checked her displays. When she spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. 21 ships destroyed. 3 more are too damaged for their crews to survive. We've lost 843 personnel. Another 217 are missing, presumed dead. Cole closed her eyes for a moment. Nearly 1,000 people. 1,000 mothers, fathers, sons, daughters. They had given everything to protect their home. And the Defiant? Cole asked. She already knew Jake Morrison's plan. She had approved it, even though it meant almost certain death for him and his crew. "The Defiant is still intact," Helen reported, and there was surprise in her voice. "It's badly damaged and drifting. Multiple hull breaches, but we're reading life signs. Recovery vessels are on their way." Cole felt a wave of relief wash over her. Morrison and his crew might survive after all. "I want full damage reports from every surviving ship," Cole ordered. "Get rescue teams to all vessels immediately. And someone get me a communication line to Dr. Grant. I want to know the status of the Helix facility." In the Mariana Trench, Lisa Grant was coordinating emergency repairs. The facility had survived, but just barely. The exotic matter ring was destroyed beyond repair. 3 sections of the structure had collapsed. But the main reactor was stable and most of her team had survived. "Admiral Cole is calling," Greg Palmer informed her. Lisa accepted the call. Admiral Cole's face appeared on her screen. "Dr. Grant, report." "The Helix device is destroyed," Lisa said. "The exotic matter ring shattered. We'll need at least 2 years to build another one, maybe longer. But the facility itself is intact. We can repair it," Cole nodded. "You and your team just saved humanity. I won't forget that." "How many ships did we lose?" Lisa asked. "Too many," Cole replied. "But not as many as we would have lost if your weapon hadn't worked. Get your people to safety, Doctor. You've earned a rest." Far from Earth and what remained of the Valthene fleet, the 17 surviving warships gathered at a pre-arranged emergency rally point. They were all damaged. Some were missing weapons. Others had holes in their hulls that would require months of repair. Sub-Commander Vectress was the highest-ranking officer still alive. War Leader Thexan was dead, along with most of the fleet's senior leadership. Vectress looked at the reports coming in from the other survivors and felt something he had never experienced before. Shame. The Valthene Confederation had ruled this region of space for thousands of years. They had conquered hundreds of worlds, and now a primitive species with only 43 ships had destroyed 99% of their attack fleet. "What should we report to the High Command?" his communications officer asked nervously. Vectress thought carefully before answering. "Tell them the truth. Tell them we encountered a species with technology far beyond what our intelligence suggested. Tell them the humans have weapons that can tear apart space itself. And tell them that any future attack on Earth will require far more than 10,000 ships. The communication officer looked shocked. Sub-Commander, the High Command will demand we return and finish the attack. Then the High Command can lead that attack personally, Vectress said coldly. I will not throw away more lives against an enemy we do not understand. The humans were supposed to be weak. They were supposed to surrender. They did neither. We must learn from this mistake. 3 weeks after the battle, Jake Morrison woke up in a hospital on Mars. His shoulder had been rebuilt with synthetic tissue. According to the doctors, he had been clinically dead for 4 minutes before they managed to stabilize him. Admiral Cole was sitting in a chair beside his bed. She was reading something on a data pad. When she saw his eyes open, she put the pad aside. Commander, she said, welcome back to the living. Jake tried to sit up, felt a sharp pain, and settled back down. My crew? 23 survivors from the Defiant, including you. Ben Cooper is 3 rooms down the hall. He took a lot of radiation exposure, but he'll recover. Amy Hughes refused to stay in bed. She's already back on duty helping with the fleet repairs. Jake felt relief flood through him. They had survived. Against all odds, they had survived. What about Earth? He asked. Safe, Cole replied. The Valthene survivors returned to their territory and reported what happened. According to our intelligence sources, the Confederation is in chaos right now. They've never suffered losses like this. Some are calling it the greatest military disaster in their history. They're calling it the Earth Wound. Will they come back? Jake asked. Cole's expression became serious. Eventually, yes, but not soon. We destroyed 99% of their attack fleet. It will take them decades to rebuild. And now they know we're not primitive. They know we have weapons that can destroy them. That will make them cautious. So we bought time, Jake said. Yes, time to prepare. Time to build more ships. Time to find allies. The Helix facility is destroyed, but we have all the data from it. Dr. Grant says we can build more defense platforms based on the same principles. Smaller ones, more efficient ones. Cole stood up. You did well, Commander. Your crew did well. Earth is still free because of what you did. Jake looked out the window at Mars. The red planet looked peaceful from here. We lost a lot of good people. Yes, Cole agreed. We did, and we'll remember every single one of them. There's going to be a memorial on the moon. Every name will be carved in stone. After Cole left, Jake lay in his hospital bed and thought about the battle. He thought about the ships that had died. He thought about the 1,000 people who would never go home to their families. But Earth was still there. Humanity was still free, and sometimes that was the best victory you could hope for. In the Valthene Confederation, the surviving war leaders gathered in their capital city. They watched recordings of the battle over and over, trying to understand how such a small force had defeated them so completely. These humans, one of them said, they should not have possessed such weapons, but they did, another replied, and we paid the price for underestimating them. What do we do now? A third asked. Do we commit our remaining forces to destroying them? Or do we accept that perhaps the balance of power has shifted? The question hung in the air unanswered, because 9,900 warships had gone to Earth expecting an easy victory. Only 17 had come back, and that fact changed everything. The Valthene had learned a hard lesson. Humanity would not surrender. Humanity would not bow. And humanity had weapons that could tear apart the strongest fleet. For the first time in thousands of years, the Valthene Confederation felt something they had made countless other species feel. They felt fear. Back on Earth, in cities across the planet, people gathered to celebrate their survival. They held memorials for the dead. They honored the heroes who had given everything to protect their home, and they looked up at the stars with different eyes now. The universe was no longer an unknown frontier. It was a place filled with other civilizations, some friendly, some hostile. But humanity had proven something important. They had proven they could stand against overwhelming odds. They had proven their technology was more advanced than anyone had suspected. And they had proven that they would fight to the death to remain free. The age of Earth's isolation was over. The age of humanity's rise had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship and stared at the screen in front of him. The numbers made no sense. He looked at them again, hoping they would change. They didn't. Check those readings one more time, he said to the young woman at the sensor station. Amy Hughes had been working with Jake for 2 years. She knew her job well. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls, and she shook her head. The numbers are correct, sir. I've checked them 5 times already. Jake felt his stomach tighten. 9,900 warships were coming toward Earth. They would arrive in 3 days. His ship, the Defiant, was one of only 43 ships that Earth had to defend itself. He did the math in his head. It was not good math. Send this data to Mars Command immediately, Jake ordered. Admiral Cole needs to see this now. On Mars, Admiral Patricia Cole was in a meeting when the alert came through. She was 60 years old and had gray hair that she kept cut short. People said she had never lost a battle, but she had never faced anything like this before. She looked at the data on her personal screen and felt her heart sink. 9,900 ships. The aliens were not playing games. They wanted to show Earth exactly what would happen if humans refused to obey them. Cole stood up and walked to the front of the council chamber. The leaders of Earth's government sat in a half-circle around her. Some were present in person. Others appeared as glowing images sent from different parts of the solar system. "We have a problem," Cole said simply. She brought up the sensor data on the main screen. The council members gasped when they saw the numbers. "That's impossible," said Richard Hayes, who represented the colonies on Europa. "No fleet that large has ever been assembled." "It has now," Cole replied. "These aliens call themselves the Valthine. They've ruled this part of space for thousands of years. When a species refuses to join them, they send overwhelming force. They want to make sure everyone understands the message." "Then what choice do we have?" Hayes asked. "We have 43 ships. They have almost 10,000. We cannot win this fight." Cole looked at him with hard eyes. "Their terms are slavery. They want our resources and our people. They want us to work for them. They want our technology. What they don't want is our freedom." The room fell silent. No one wanted to say what everyone was thinking. Earth could not win this battle. "We do have one advantage," Cole continued. "They think we are weak. They've been watching our public broadcasts and our commercial ships. They don't know about the things we've built in secret." Deep under the ocean, in the Mariana Trench, Dr. Lisa Grant was working on humanity's greatest secret. The project had taken 15 years to build. It had cost more money than most countries had. Almost no one knew it existed. Lisa stood in front of a massive ring made of strange material that seemed to glow with its own light. The ring was held in place by powerful gravity fields. The air around it shimmered like heat waves on a summer road. Her assistant, Greg Palmer, walked up beside her. He looked nervous. "The power readings are stable," he said, "but Admiral Cole is asking if we're ready. We've never tested this at full power before." Lisa knew what he meant. The device could work perfectly, or it could tear apart and destroy everything within 100 miles. There was no way to know until they tried it. "Tell the Admiral we're ready," Lisa said. She hoped her voice sounded more confident than she felt. Back in space, Jake Morrison was studying the tactical displays. He had been a military officer for 12 years. He knew how battles worked. He knew what happened when a small force faced a large one. It never ended well for the small force. His communications officer, Ben Cooper, turned to look at him. "Sir, the crew wants to know if we're really going to fight." Jake thought about his daughter. She was 7 years old and lived in Denver with his ex-wife. He thought about his parents in Seattle. He thought about the 4 billion people on Earth who were counting on 43 ships to protect them. "Yes," Jake said quietly. "We're going to fight." Ben nodded slowly. "They're brave people on this ship, sir. They knew what they signed up for." "I know," Jake said. "That's what worries me." The Defiant was not a large ship compared to military vessels from other species, but it was fast, and it had weapons that could punch through heavy armor. Jake and his crew had trained for years to use those weapons effectively. Amy Hughes brought up a new display. "Sir, I'm picking up more activity from the Valthine fleet. They're starting to organize into attack formation." Jake watched the display carefully. The alien ships were moving into a pattern he recognized. They planned to surround Earth's defenses completely. It was a classic tactic when you had overwhelming numbers. Send this data to the other ships, Jake ordered. Everyone needs to see what we're facing. On Mars, Admiral Cole was finalizing her battle plan. She knew it was a desperate plan. She knew that many people would die. But it was the only chance Earth had. She opened a communication channel to all 43 Earth ships. The faces of their commanders appeared on her screen. Some looked afraid. Some looked determined. All of them looked ready. "We all know the situation," Cole said. "The Valthene have sent a fleet large enough to destroy our entire planet. They expect us to surrender without a fight. They think we're too primitive to stand against them." She paused and looked at each face on her screen. "They're wrong. We have a weapon they don't know about. We have a plan they won't expect. And we have something they'll never understand. We're fighting for our home. We're fighting for our families. We're fighting for the right to be free." Cole took a deep breath. "I won't lie to you. Many of us won't survive this battle. But if we do this right, Earth will survive. Humanity will survive. And the Valthene will learn that humans don't make easy slaves." She looked down at her command console. "All ships will receive detailed orders within the hour. Execute those orders exactly. Our timing has to be perfect. If anyone has questions, now is the time." No one spoke. They all understood what needed to be done. "Then may luck be with us all," Cole said. "Mars command out." Jake Morrison received his orders 30 minutes later. When he read them, his hands began to shake slightly. The plan was insane. It was brilliant and insane at the same time. "Amy, Ben, come here," he called to his senior officers. They read the orders together in silence. "This might actually work," Ben said slowly. "Or it might get us all killed in the first 5 minutes," Amy added. Jake looked at both of them. "Those are our options anyway. At least this way we go down fighting." Above Earth, the defense fleet began moving into position. 43 small ships arranging themselves against an enemy that outnumbered them more than 200 to 1. The odds were impossible. The math was brutal. But Jake Morrison looked out at the stars and felt something strange inside his chest. It wasn't fear, though he was afraid. It wasn't hope, though he had some of that too. It was determination. Pure, simple determination to make the Valthene pay for every meter of space they tried to take. The alien fleet was coming. In 3 days, the battle would begin. Earth would either survive or fall. Jake intended to make sure it was the former. The Valthene fleet came out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. Their ship stretched across space like a metal wall. There were so many of them that they blocked out the stars behind them. On the command ship, War Leader Thexan looked at the displays showing Earth's defense fleet. He had 4 eyes that blinked one at a time. His skin was covered in scales that changed color slightly when he was pleased. Right now they were turning a satisfied shade of blue. "They have gathered all their military ships," his tactical officer reported. 43 vessels total. They use primitive fusion engines. Their weapons are kinetic missiles and early particle beams. Thexan made a sound that was like a laugh in his language. The humans had assembled everything they had. It was nothing compared to what he commanded. This battle would be over quickly. Perhaps the humans would be more useful as servants than as warriors. "Open a communication channel to them," Thexan ordered. "Let us offer them one chance to surrender." On the Defiant, Jake Morrison's console lit up with an incoming transmission. He had been expecting this. The face that appeared on his screen was alien but recognizable. It had scales, 4 eyes, and an expression that showed no doubt at all. "I am War Leader Thexan of the Valthene Confederation," the alien said. The translation computer made his words sound flat and mechanical. "Your species has been evaluated. You are suitable for incorporation into our empire. Power down your vessels immediately. Prepare for occupation. If you resist, we will destroy your planet completely." Jake looked over at Amy Hughes. She gave him a small nod. The transmission was being broadcast on all channels. Everyone on Earth was watching. Everyone would hear what he said next. "This is Commander Jake Morrison of the Earth Defense Fleet," he replied. "Your terms are rejected. Leave our solar system now or you will face consequences." There was a pause. Thexan's expression changed. His scales shifted to a darker color. "You have 43 ships. I have 9,900. Your courage is noted, but mathematics does not care about bravery. Stand down while you still can. No, Jake said simply. Then he closed the channel. From Mars Command, Admiral Cole watched as the Valthene fleet began to advance. They moved in a pattern she recognized from military history. They were spreading out to surround Earth's defenders completely. It was a good tactic when you had overwhelming numbers. You left the enemy no escape route. Begin Phase 1, Cole said quietly into her communication system. All ships execute pattern Delta 7. Suddenly, the Earth fleet scattered. The 43 ships broke formation and started flying in different directions. They burned their engines at maximum power, each ship going on what looked like a random course. On the Infinite Destiny, Thexan watched the human ships scatter across his displays. They are fleeing, his tactical officer observed. Should we pursue and destroy them? Thexan considered this. No, maintain our formation. Let them run. When they realize there is no escape, they will surrender. We will accept their submission then. But the Earth ships were not running away. They were moving into position. Deep under the ocean in the facility beneath the Mariana Trench, Lisa Grant watched her instruments carefully. Each of the 43 Earth ships was transmitting a special signal. Her computers were tracking every signal precisely. All beacon signals confirmed. Greg Palmer reported from his station. His voice was tight with tension. We have 43 quantum coordinates locked in. Start spinning up the ring, Lisa ordered. The massive ring of exotic matter began to rotate. It started slowly, then moved faster and faster until it became just a blur. The water around the facility began to glow with a strange blue light. Energy readings climbed higher and higher. In orbit above Earth, Thexan was beginning to feel something he rarely experienced. Uncertainty. His displays were showing massive energy spikes coming from Earth. The readings were increasing rapidly. Analyze those energy signatures, he ordered sharply. His science officer worked frantically at his console. Unknown technology, war leader. The energy pattern does not match anything in our database. No species should be able to generate this much power at this stage of development. Where is it coming from? The source appears to be located on their ocean floor. But that should not be possible. No species develops power generation this advanced before they master proper space travel. Thexan felt his confidence waver for the first time. Something was wrong. The humans were using technology they should not have. But it was too late to withdraw now. His own superiors would execute him if he retreated from such a weak force. All ships, he commanded. Attack formation. Destroy their vessels, then bombard the energy source on their planet. The Valthene fleet surged forward like a wave of metal. Weapon systems powered up across 9,900 warships. The distance between the fleets began to close. Jake Morrison watched them come. His crew was quiet. Everyone knew what was about to happen. Everyone knew their role in the plan. All ships, Jake transmitted to the rest of the Earth fleet. Hold your positions. Wait for the signal. The Valthene weapons fired. Bright beams of concentrated particles cut through space. The first Earth ship, the Defender, exploded. The hull was torn apart and became a ball of burning plasma. Hold, Jake whispered to himself. His knuckles were white where he gripped his command chair. 2 more Earth ships died. Their hulls could not withstand the powerful alien weapons. The crews never had time to escape. Hold. Then Lisa Grant's voice came through Jake's communication system. Helix is at full power. We're ready. Initiating now. Jake felt his heart pounding. All ships, he shouted. Break and dive. Now, now, now. The remaining Earth vessels turned sharply and dove toward the planet at maximum acceleration. The Valthene fleet closed in behind them, weapons still firing. Confident that victory was seconds away, and then space itself began to tear open. At 43 points throughout the Valthene fleet, reality split apart. Small rifts appeared in space, each one only a few meters across. But they were not normal tears in space-time. They were something else. Something the humans had discovered by accident and had spent 15 years learning to control. They were singularities, tiny black holes, each one carefully positioned and controlled by the quantum field generated by the Helix device. The nearest Valthene warship suddenly lurched sideways. The crew felt the gravity change. Warning alarms started screaming. The ship's hull began to groan under stress it was never designed to handle. Then the hull started to buckle. Metal compressed. The ship was being pulled toward the singularity. In less than 10 seconds, a warship 3 kilometers long was crushed down to nothing. It became just a stream of atoms spiraling into the black hole. Evasive maneuvers, Thexan roared. His voice was filled with something his crew had never heard before. Fear. But the singularities were everywhere. The Valthene fleet had stayed in tight formation for maximum firepower. Now that formation had become a trap. Ships tried to turn away from the gravity wells but crashed into other vessels. The collisions created more chaos. Another 50 ships died in the first minute. Admiral Cole watched from Mars Command. Her face showed no emotion, but inside she was counting. Every destroyed enemy ship was one less threat to Earth. Beside her, Commander Helen Price looked shocked. "We're winning," she whispered. "We're actually winning." "Update," Cole demanded. She never celebrated until the battle was over. The Valthene fleet is breaking apart. They're trying to spread out. But the singularities are moving with them. Dr. Grant's team is adjusting the quantum coordinates based on data from our ships. Jake Morrison piloted the Defiant through the chaos. Enemy ships were everywhere, some exploding, some trying to escape, some just drifting dead in space. His crew worked without stopping. "Target designated Sector 7, Amy Hughes called out. She had locked onto a cluster of enemy ships. She transmitted the coordinates to the Mariana Trench facility. 2 seconds later, a new rift opened right in the middle of 6 Valthene destroyers. The ships were caught in the gravity well before they could react. They crumpled like paper, but the Valthene were not finished. Thexan was a survivor. He had won battles against dozens of other species. He quickly understood what was happening. The Earth ships were marking targets for the weapon. "All fighters," he commanded. "All fast attack craft. Target the human ships. Kill them all. Without them, the weapon is useless." 3,000 small fighter craft broke away from the main Valthene fleet. They were much smaller than the capital ships. They were faster, too, and they did not have the momentum that made the big ships so vulnerable to the singularities. "We have incoming," Ben Cooper shouted from his station. "Thousands of fighters heading straight for us." Jake's jaw tightened. The Earth ships had been designed to fight large vessels, not swarms of small fighters. "All ships defensive formation. Make every shot count." The space around Earth became a storm of weapons fire and explosions as the fighters closed in.